Welcome back to Les Schwab Tire Center's Outdoor GPS. It's time for Owin's Field Report, sponsored by Les Schwab Tire Centers.
Now, as most of you can tell, I'm pretty into chasing birds. I'm pretty interested in hunting, and this is a time of year where things change. Now, we get to fish a lot here in the Northwest. We spend roughly, 8 months of the year. That's all the options that you have is to go fishing, and for 4 months of that year, you get to chase whatever else, right? Fins or feathers or fur, whatever it is. For me this week, it was chasing pheasant. Now, there's a lot of places here in Oregon that have multiple fee pheasant hunts or release hunts, and I love to participate in those. I know that it's not, for all the purists that are out there, it's not wild pheasant, but I'm going to tell you right now, when a pheasant's released into the wild, they become pretty wily, right? So it was good enough this week that I spent 3 days chasing them, and a lot of miles, okay? But I love watching my dog work. He is an absolute waterfowl dog. He's a water dog, 100%. He doesn't mind chasing pheasant. Certainly not his favorite thing to do, but his nose is unbelievable and generally gets him in trouble in a number of different ways. But he did pretty good this week. He found some birds for me. Unfortunately, though, after all the miles, only was able to take four pheasant in 3 different hunts. One day I was actually lucky enough to get both my birds, because you're only allowed 2 a day, and you can see the photo here. And Drago at this point, he is certainly, and I mean, I do everything I can to make sure that he is overwatered if necessary, and I try to keep him out of the sun as much as possible. For all of you that have labs, hunting upland birds when it gets hot, you know, they're not as effective. It slows them down. They can't smell as well. They start to pant more. They're not smelling as good as they can, right? Well, he did pretty good. Actually, on all 3 of these, you know, there's one dove there, and typically you don't flush doves, but when you walk through a field of millet and he sniffs them out, okay, you know, I'll take it. It goes right into the pile with the pheasant. And this year's bird's pretty good, wily, jumping, flying. I mean, that's what it's all about. Missed a couple of opportunities, not by actually missing, just not having the right opportunity. When there's other people around, and this is a great reminder, when you're out in these areas, and there's 4 or 5 different areas in the state that you have fee pheasant hunts, there's going to be a lot of people around. And where I was, there was no shortage of people around. Pay attention to everything that's going on around you. Pay attention to orange, okay? One particular situation did have a bird that jumped up. It was too far for me to take a shot. Drago was exploring a little bit more than I wanted him to at that particular time. Saw orange in the background and just flat out wasn't even considering taking a shot. So just kind of keep that in mind. You always got to stay safe. Pay attention to what's going on downrange of you, and just be safe and have fun. But overall, you can tell that my dog was having a good time. He just loves, he knows this is the time of year where things start to change. Although this next week, he's not going to be happy with me at all, because I'll be gone, he'll be at home, and I hate doing that to him. Anyway, let's take a look at fish counts real quick. This is interesting. We'll get to it here in a second. Of course, Bonneville, on the Columbia, there was an additional extension through the 30th to retain Chinook, right? Which is a darn good thing, because that means when I get back, I might get an extra day to kind of unwind from hunting and do a little bit of fishing, which I haven't done for a couple of weeks now. But the numbers, not great. But when you see these numbers just like this, below Bonneville in particular, things get very interesting in the dead zone. Because now you're starting to see fish that are coming through that are holding up. Yes, there's probably not as many of them in the river, but there's fewer of them going over the dam because they do stall out, because they're destined for lower river tributaries, different areas than, say, heading to the east side of Washington or Idaho. So things can be very, very good. Even though you're seeing numbers not as high going over Bonneville, the fishing can be extremely good. And when you're talking about some of the reports that I've been getting, and even this morning, depending on the zones that you're in, either in the dead zone or not, pretty good. Of course, there's folks that are struggling. That'd probably be me if I was out there. But overall, pretty darn good fishing. And everything seems to be producing, although I will admit, stuffer baits the last handful of days have been the #1 bait that I've been told, either it be super baits or spinning fish, something similar. that's been kind of the ticket. Not that spinners haven't been working, just seems like the guys that are getting the most bites, it's been some sort of a stuffer bait. And some of the things that I've been hearing has been differences in leaders and bumper lengths. And we've talked about bumper lengths with these 360s a lot. I like 18 to 24 and sometimes 20. It all depends on what you're doing. You can change things up. You got to remember, the shorter the bumper is in front of your 360 flasher, the faster it's going to want to spin. So you can change how you're presenting your baits based on just that bumper length. You could leave your leader length the same and change pretty much everything about that presentation just by the bumper length. So don't be scared from going even longer than 24 or down to 18. I wouldn't go any shorter than 18. I do have friends that go down to 12, but it all depends on what you like and what makes you comfortable and what you're getting bit on, right? Here's where things are a little interesting. Yeah, it's the Willamette. I don't even want to talk about those spring Chinook numbers. But this is where it's interesting. Coho numbers, silver numbers. In the Willamette itself, I know several people that live in the same area that I do that spend a lot of time chasing silvers this time of year, either above or below the falls, and it's been pretty interesting. I mean, it's not a red-hot bite by any means. Silvers in Oregon and tributaries, Willamette included, they're not known for biting great. But when there's enough fish around, I got a reminder that I got to throw out here in a second too, as long as I remember. It's been decent. Trolling wiggleworts or even 360s with spinners and hoochies has been good, or if you find the right area, twitching has been effective. Just drifting. Finding areas where the fish are going to likely hang out. Now, it could be river mouths, different locations, and just twitching your way down has been interesting as well. So this is really, I love to see this. There's a number of reasons why. Just to see that number should tell you about how management should kind of go when you're talking about fish species, but we don't have time to get into that. But at the very least, interesting numbers on the Willamette. And some openers this year for silvers in areas that have not been open in quite a while. So it's well worth doing some research. I'm not going to get you in trouble, but do your research and find those spots that are additionally open on the Willamette main stem. And you can find yourself some dandy fish close to home, not have to go out and deal with crowds. So certainly something to look into. Yes, we're going to talk about that for real quickly, but I was asked by one of our law enforcement officials to mention that the fishery at the mouth of the Sandy, which has been known for, well, 100 years as being some ways, I'm not going to say that everybody's cheating, but there's certainly some that are. And you know what I'm talking about. Down there around the mouth of the Clackamas, excuse me, I believe I said the Sandy, the mouth of the Clackamas. Don't do that. Number one, you're being watched thoroughly. And number two, you're going to have to kind of police yourselves, because this particular area that we're talking about, bowling alley, they could close that off just like that. It's a great opportunity for folks to target silvers that are laying up in there. But if there's a bunch of people just doing illegal things, they'll just flat close it. Now, don't do that. There's enough of them around that you can play the game the right way and just catch them. Anyway, you know who you are. Just pay attention, have fun, but do it the right way, okay? That was in an email that I got that from. Anyway, here's the river levels for the Columbia. Still very, very low. Not a lot of water out there. Pay attention to the tides. You do have a little additional time. And yes, wobblers are still being just as effective as some of the other techniques, maybe even more. It just depends. At Bonneville, they're being very consistent with their dump and hold on their water, which makes things a little bit consistent. Again, depending on the areas that you're spending your time. Kershaw sale, that's coming up right now. I think we're right in the middle of it. If you want it, this is my arsenal this year. This is what I'm taking up to camp. These knives, everything, and the saw. They're very inexpensive overall, high quality Kershaw knives, and this is a deal that's well worth looking into, especially for a number of different things. The caper and the gut hook skinner, that's certainly one. That one will be on my hip the whole time. Certainly take advantage if you can. And make sure you send an email over to Jason. Like I say, each week they do a giveaway for us. We appreciate them doing so. They don't have to. They do it because they want everyone to get themselves or have an opportunity to win that prize pack. Just send Jason an email over Procure, and you'll be entered in to win. Every Monday morning, they pick that winner randomly. And then, of course, They ship it right to your front door. Okay, let's find out what this weather is really going to do. Now, Katie, this week for me, it's the last week of bow season. I'm heading to the east side of the state, but it looks like we've got some warmer weather, at least for what we would expect this time of year.
Yes, definitely. Now, the next 3 days are going to be average, but once we get to Tuesday, just that one particular day, we have a quick bump and our temperatures might actually feel more like summer, and then a new trough drops in and brings us back to average with some showers. Here's what I'm talking about. Right now, we're in what we would call more of a zonal flow. That means no ridges, no troughs. Everything's pretty mild, giving us just exactly what we would expect, that 30-year average. As we go through today and tomorrow, we start to see it shift a little. We do have a bit more cloud cover tomorrow because of this shift where we have more of a northwest flow in the upper atmosphere. And then Monday and Tuesday, you see this ridge build in, and then it peaks for us with that center of high pressure right here on Tuesday. That's the day we could get back into the upper 80s, maybe even low 90s before it moves on, and this trough starts to drop in on Wednesday. And then Wednesday and Thursday, potentially some showers, maybe even Friday as well. We'll see how that next trough is. You saw the one went up and it sort of shifted into the next one. So mild weather, troughs and ridges, mix of summer and fall, just exactly what we would expect for September. Here are your temperatures and conditions across the region for today. You can see some 60 to 70s on the coast, mainly upper 70s in the metro valleys, and 180-degree temperature there in the gorge. A few clouds. This is that mix I was telling you that you're going to see, but all the rain stays to our north because we have that ridge holding it down. We've only had one 90-degree day after September 15th in the last several years. We could get another one on Thursday or Tuesday, and then we're back into the 70s on Thursday. So there you go. There's your warmer day right there.
So Tuesday, that warm day, is that going to be the entire state, Katie?
Well, I mean, pretty much everybody's going to be warm. Temperatures will fluctuate whether you're on the beach or you're in the mountain or you're on the other side of the Cascades, but we're expecting that to be a very warm to very hot day for us. At least, and it's just the afternoon, too. Keep that in mind. This is probably something we'll only reach for like a few minutes at the peak of the day because of the sun angle and the strength and then the amount of daylight hours.
Very good, Katie. Thank you, as always. We'll see you tomorrow morning. All right, we're going to cut to a break. When we come back, we're going to enlighten you on another reason, as you need one, right, to head over to Fisherman's Marine. It's our fall hunting sale. We'll have that in just a couple minutes.
Outdoor GPS is brought to you by P-Line, because we fish, by Hawken Fishing, perfection in fishing gear, and by Haxton's Canvas and Upholstery, the trusted name of the Pacific Northwest.